everyone, and welcome to another weekly live show with me. I am MaryAnn, and I am the artist and the illustrator behind this whimsical art world. These very cute little characters called PenguinGirl, Penguin, and Pengzilla, and basically they are in these like whimsical, magical settings, sometimes inspired by existing masterworks of art, and sometimes just, I don't know, some image pops to my mind and I go along with the inspiration and the ideas that flow. And I'm learning how to do more of that, like how to listen to my own creative intuition rather than trying to think about, what would people like to see? Today's video is really about sharing more about PenguinGirl and what is her story and how she came about. Here, obviously, PenguinGirl is some kind of representation of myself. I think she's like maybe like an innocent, confused, kind of curious, kind of eccentric part of myself. It might even be the parts of myself that I actually try not to show to the world, because for whatever reason I think that it's wrong to be curious or eccentric or confused. So I always try to appear like I have it all together. But actually I can tell you most of the time I'm very indecisive. People who know me really well sometimes get very frustrated with me and my indecisiveness. But generally I try to appear like I have it all together and I know what I'm doing. But honestly, I'm a lot like PenguinGirl, where I am just trying to figure out my way in this world, and she's trying to figure out her way in this whimsical world. So when I first started drawing penguins, when I did my first solo exhibition, those 30 paintings that I made for the exhibition, it was a story of penguins from the earth basically, and they're trying to find their way to the sky and to the clouds, and eventually they get there and they fulfill their dream of flying. In reality, penguins can't fly, but because they are birds, they have this potential for flight. And so in those paintings, when they're in the sky and in the clouds, it's like saying that their dream has come true. So it's a symbol of like anything is possible, our dreams are possible, and it's representing us basically, that we have the potential to live the best life that we have always dreamt of. So I continued with that idea of these penguins that live in the sky and the clouds, and then at one point I started drawing this. So this was a piece that came about in 2014, and it's a girl in bed, and as you can see, like she's like in a tree house. So this was also the initial beginnings of the whole dream tree thing. Like if you're familiar with my dream tree mural series, this was one of the initial ideas around that as well. Okay, so she's in a tree in the, and it's nighttime and there's like this ship coming. So I think I just always have this, this longing for like adventure and like going out to sea, and just the idea of like living in a tree house is just like so cool, even though I've never done it before. So that was the very first, I guess, the first version of PenguinGirl, like the pre-PenguinGirl girl. And in 2014 also I was painting this mural. It was my first mural painting gig. It was another artist who came up with the design, and I was just hired as one of the mural assistants. We painted 4 murals in total, and one of them was like on the second story of a building. So because of that, under the regulations here in Singapore, we had to get like certified for safety and climbing scaffolding and all that. But it was fun, and during the class sometimes it got a little bit boring and the content is a little bit dry. And the instructors also don't really care whether you're really paying attention or not. So it was like, imagine this classroom of 30 people, and there's like 24 other construction workers, like in their in their work clothes, like in their the safety boots, and then you have like these 6 artists, and out of these 6 artists I think 4 of us were women. And we're like, we look so different and so out of place, and we would be right there in the room with our sketchbooks open, and we're like drawing away in our sketchbooks. So that was how we spent most of the classroom sessions in that safety time. So that was when I started doodling, again, this girl with the 2 penguins. So again, it's this idea of this girl just kept appearing, and I actually don't really draw people that much, but it was something that, I guess out of boredom, I just started doing that. So this is another one of those. Okay, and this was where I started to call her Penguin Girl. But you can see she's not like in the penguin outfit yet. She just looks like a regular little girl. And then at one point, and you can see the date right there, April 2nd, 2014, she has this hat. And I think it's because a friend of mine has this penguin hat, and I think he lent it to me for my first solo exhibition. So somehow I was reminded of that. And so I decided to start drawing this girl with the hat, and then from her having the hat, it became also her wearing this like penguin outfit. So that was the initial, the very first draft of Penguin Girl. And you can see also her head is like immensely like gigantic compared to her body. I guess it was just a way of drawing kids at that time, because I think I was working on a children's book as well, and yeah. So a lot of the things that I was working on kind of, you know, cross-inspired each other, and the ideas just came from there. Okay, and here is another one of Penguin Girl again, and this time she's holding this penguin. So in this one, I wrote here at the bottom, Penguin Girl bored in safety training class. So apparently I got the timeline wrong, because I think I already started drawing these before I went to the safety class. But anyway, in the safety class, I drew Penguin Girl, like, you know, sitting in the desk thing, you know, like those chairs with the mini desk thing that you can like sort of fold up. So there she is sitting there, and she's like z, like so bored. Yeah, so this is the this is the one that I drew in the safety class. Oh my gosh, memory, timelines, fuzzy. And then from there, I basically decided one day, I think it was like an art jamming session with some friends, and I decided that I was going to use this opportunity to actually start drawing this character and putting some color to her and bringing her to life. So this is the piece that came from that one. So yeah, the very first final artwork of Penguin Girl, I would say, or like a sketch or test sketch of Penguin Girl. And yeah, and I for some reason, I don't know why, I always draw her typically with like two penguins, one or two. But yeah, this is the very first Penguin Girl. And then I also drew this one, and I called it Learning to Fly. And this is also inspired by that safety training thing, because we had to like get strapped onto a harness and be like suspended from the scaffolding as part of the training. So that was inspired by this. And yeah, and then along the way, I'm going to show you a few. I had more, you know, more of these Penguin Girl sketches here and there in my sketchbook. So these were done in like ballpoint pen, and I like using pen to sketch a lot more than pencil actually. So these were some of the ones that I did. So like, I think she's like playing her ukulele here, and this one, she's like, they're standing on a cloud and she's like spreading stars out into the universe. And this is her fishing with the penguin, which is a very common idea that appears a lot in my work. Like, you know, like in this one, it's basically a similar thing with this. So some ideas kind of stick around, and some, you know, I didn't really pursue. And then at one point, I think in 2014, I had some relationship issues, romance issues. And so I drew this one of, I guess, trying to symbolize self-love. So obviously you can see that is a version of me there with at that time I had long hair, and I used to like, you know, bun it up like that. So it's yeah, just trying to express this idea of self-love and healing from a broken heart. And there's also this one, which I really like this one, and I wish that I had drawn it on like, you know, non-sketchbook paper and like put color to it and something, because I feel like, as much as, you know, I have not, okay, then again, I haven't really tried to redraw this, but I do love this idea a lot. And yeah, maybe I'm gonna redraw it again. Maybe you're gonna see it in the next couple of weeks as well, who knows. And then finally I got like to the first actual work of Penguin Girl that I did like on a bigger paper. And this one has that idea of sinking. It's called sinking basically, and it's Penguin Girl being dragged into this ocean where I have basically written like all these negative self-thoughts, self-limiting thoughts that I constantly am plagued with. Things like not good enough. I don't even remember what I wrote. and then in the balloon, it's if you can see, it says like courage, discipline, love, and so this kind of captures that whole idea of, I guess, Penguin Girl's internal struggle as well. So like every time you see this heart balloon, it symbolizes something hopeful, like your dreams, like love, like courage, things that will get you out of this ocean of madness, basically. And then in a similar vein as this one, this was not actually intended to be so dark. I just happened to like put down the black watercolor on the paper first, and then after that when I tried to draw the character it became really dark. So again, there's the girl in the boat with the balloon, and if that looks familiar to you, it's similar. It's like the initial the initial idea that leads to this one. So it's again, I think it was also inspired by that Banksy piece with the girl and the heart balloon floating away, and so that is this idea. By this time it was 2015, and so during this time again I continued exploring more of Penguin Girl, and one of the things that I drew was this. So when I was 6 years old, I had this obsession with Robin from one of the Batman cartoons. So I kind of imagined that Penguin Girl was like, she had this crush on Robin, and so that was what this picture is about. It's like, she's trying to pull him away and he's just like so not into them. And then in my own personal life, once again, I drew her. This was again one of my romances. And I'm not gonna say too much about that. And then in 2016, I just continued exploring this idea of this girl and what she about, and trying to, because I didn't want to like force a story out about who she is and where she's at, but at this time also it's like I just imagined this girl was just always like in her own world and basically away from the real world and away from everyone else. And if you can see, like in this picture, outside the window there's a tree with on clouds, so she's actually up in the sky with the other penguins, and in her own world. So other interesting ideas that also came up, like at one point in time when I was involved in like so many different things and I had to wear so many different hats, like literally this piece came out from that. So this idea of in some sense also it's an idea of like not really knowing who we are and who and what we're about, and not knowing which hat actually is the right hat. And I guess now that I look at it, and I'm getting all these ideas now that I look at it, like her penguin hat is all the way up here, and then there's all these other hats that are not really her hats. So in a way it's like going through this process of removing all the hats that are not yours, so you can get closer to the one that is truly yours. At the same time, it could also be that that whole notion of like exploring different roles and different parts of ourselves, so that we can also get closer to who we really are. A lot of that process of finding who we are is really also testing out these different roles that we have to play, and expressing all these different parts of ourselves, in exploring different interests that we have, exploring the things that grab our attention, because that is part of the journey of getting closer to our real hat and who we really are. I think at that time I was also starting to think about leadership and what does that mean. So this piece also came about where, so these penguins, they're actually made by my fingerprint. I don't know if you can see the fingerprint lines, but I basically like drew, like, used ink and drew it on my fingers and like put it on the paper. And this kind of has a whole Pied Piper inspiration. It's just, something that I was experiencing at that time, and so I put it into my work. So there was a period of time where I didn't really work much on Penguin Girl, and then in 2018 she started appearing again. This is a series where Penguin Girl started appearing in these master artists' artworks. So in the meantime, even though I wasn't drawing Penguin Girl for like a couple of years, I was also still trying to figure out who I am as an artist and what is it that I really want to express and what is my voice. And so I met this other artist. I went to his solo exhibition, and his character is basically this cat. He's called Katma Sutra if you want to look him up. And it's basically the character of a cat that is based on his actual cat. And so what he shared with me was that he's a self-taught painter, and when he was first starting out as a painter, he decided to learn from all these master artists. So he would paint their paintings, and then he added in his cat character in them. So I kind of got inspired by that idea, and so I started putting Penguin Girl in my own version of artworks that are inspired by master paintings. This is actually the creation, based on Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam. That's why I've drawn myself as the creator, creating Penguin Girl with a paintbrush instead of the finger thing. So that's the idea behind this. And along the way I also explored like a Picasso piece. So again, this is Girl in the Mirror, and so again, you know, like the whole like idea of self-love, and so Penguin Girl looking at, you know, her reflection, which is actually me, and we don't know who the reflection really is. Then is it Penguin Girl or is it the me, the illustrated me? But this Picasso version of based on his painting Girl in the Mirror, that is kind of, you know, piggybacking off this initial idea. So that's me, and that's Penguin Girl. This one, if you recognize it, this one is inspired by René Magritte's Son of Man. So that's like the man in the suit with the apple, the green apple over his face, and there's this like seascape behind him. So this is the very first version of the Penguin Girl one that I have drawn of this. This is the latest updated version of that one, with where I've also added in Pengzilla. So a lot of these ideas, they came back again, and there's a new take on them now that, you know, some time has passed and I've accumulated certain life experiences and all that. And then this one is the Scream, but at that time I wanted to express something more happy and upbeat. So this is a more excited Penguin Girl version of the Scream, where she's like, I think I called this Scream of Cuteness. So she's just being like really cute and screaming like in a very cute way, like in the recent comic that was published last Sunday, this panel here, the second one, that's actually based on the Scream. Brings us to today also, where like, you know, this new version of Penguin Girl, where if you notice, like the colors have also changed from before. Like there's a lot more blues and greens now, whereas in the past, like if you see, there was more like purple, blue. Now it's like blue, green. So I don't know what's going on there, but you know, things are shifting, things are evolving, and that's just part of the creative process as I explore what these characters are trying to express and what this whole story of Penguin Girl really is about. I would say so far, you know, when I look at this whole character of Penguin Girl and her story, you know, like I've shared, like she represents the part of me that's like curious and kind of weird and eccentric, and like in her own world and in her own daydreaming, basically. So in some sense, I think like a lot of these whimsical art worlds with her in it, it's just the world inside her head, not really the reality, and maybe even a little bit like escaping from reality, but at the same time maybe also hoping for a better reality or a happier reality. I would say ultimately, like, you know, in spite of the difficulties that Penguin Girl faces as she navigates the world and tries to live in it, but also like, you know, not want to be a part of it, I think there's a lot of resilience in that character. You know, even though she is confused and doesn't really know what's going on, she still tries her best to make the best of the situation and figure things out. And there's also some sense of innocence in her, where like, you know, as I went through the whole you know, pile of drawings here, I mentioned a couple of, you know, past romances, and in spite of that, she's still like, you know, excited about the next one or the current one, and like maybe in some sense she does not learn from her lessons. I don't know. Even though bad things happen, like there's still this hopefulness and looking for the best in situations, and yeah, and making the best of things, basically. So there you go. That is the whole story of Penguin Girl so far. I don't know yet how this character is going to continue to evolve, and thank you for watching. I'm so glad that you are here. I am really happy to get the chance to share with you more about my work and more about these characters and where they're going. And once again, I am MaryAnn. Have a great rest of the day wherever you're at, and I will talk to you soon.